Oh, it's falling apart. My ball of yarn is falling apart. Hi everyone, welcome back to Have I Met JV. My name is Joana and I live here in Lisbon in Portugal, and I love talking about my knitting and my crochet. So today you have a normal podcast episode where I'm gonna be talking a bit about a finished object, some whips and some acquisitions. So, hi, Joana from editing here. I just noticed that my head is partly cut in this video. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not gonna re-record it again because it wouldn't be as genuine. So here are for the joys of learning this as I go along. I'm really sorry. You're just gonna have to endure not seeing parts of my head. Here it is. If you wanna have a look now. You're not gonna see the top of my head for most of this video, and I'm really sorry. Bye. I also wanted to say a big thank you to whoever joined. Since my last video, I had like a spike in views and a spike in subscribers. So thank you very much. I have a few words for you at the end of the video. I don't want to bore you all with that. So if you do watch until the end of the video, I would like to say a massive thank you in a little bit more detail then. But now we are ready to start the podcast. So my only finished object is the Farm Tee by the Knit Pearl Girl. And I'll put a little video of me wearing the tee so you can see. So I've blocked this and I have weaved in the end so it's ready to be worn. And what are my thoughts on this tee? So as you can see from the pictures of the pattern and my finished object, I went in a very, very different direction from what the t-shirt actually is in the pattern. I didn't do the stripes because I saw Nora from aka Nora Knits knitting her Farm Tee, and I really liked the effect. I really liked her finished object. So I decided to do a similar thing of what she did, which was to knit with a different yarn than what you would if you were to knit the stripes, and then to do some modifications. So I ended up doing, I believe I did the same modifications as Nora in the end. So let's talk a little bit about that. So for a yarn, I used two yarns held together, the Metallico by Hobbii, which is a polyamide, acrylic and wool yarn. And I can already tell you that I don't recommend that yarn, so I'll explain why in a little bit. But I held that together with the Tencel Bamboo by Go Handmade, I believe it is, which is a Tencel Bamboo yarn, I believe. So there's the fine version and there's the double version. I believe I ordered the double. And I held those two together to give this effect, which hopefully you can see on camera. You have the dark color of the Metallico and with some speckles of golden, which was my idea for using that yarn. That's what I wanted. And then you have the brown of the Go Handmade Tencel Bamboo yarn, which is very lovely. It has this sheen, the bamboo. So I'll definitely use that yarn again. I really enjoyed working with that yarn, and I really enjoy the finished fabric that the yarn gave. And I really love the drape of this. So you can see it's very drapey. It's very thick, I believe because of the acrylic and the wool in the Metallico yarn. So I think this is not going to be a summer garment by any means. I think here in Portugal it gets really hot in summer, so I don't think I'll be able to wear this in the summer. But my idea is to wear this in the beginning of spring, maybe late autumn, and wear with maybe like a black cardigan, which is, I'll explain it a bit, but I'm making a black cardigan precisely so I can wear it with this. And yeah, I don't really recommend the Metallico yarn because I think I don't mind acrylic yarn, okay? I don't mind acrylic yarn at all. I think each yarn has a purpose for different things. And I think for gift knitting and baby knitting, I think acrylic definitely has a lot of advantages. But you know, when people say that a yarn is a little bit squeaky, this one definitely is quite squeaky. So I wouldn't recommend, if you don't like the squeakiness of acrylic yarn, I don't recommend it. And then the other thing I noticed is that I think it's going to pill a lot. So it's already, so I blocked it by submerging it in water and laying it flat. And I think it already started to kind of create a fuzz in the fabric, which I'm not very keen on. And I also don't think the golden comes across very well after it's finished. The light here today is a little bit rubbish because it's an overcast day. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see the golden bits, but I wish they came across more than they actually do. So in terms of gauge, I met gauge with 4.5 millimeter needles, which is what you're supposed to use in the project, but actually my gauge is very, very different from knitting flat and knitting in the round. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but here where I knit the yoke flat, I have a much looser gauge than in the bottom of the garment where I started knitting circular. I knew that my gauge was different from knitting flat to knitting in the round, but I never saw it so clearly. And it doesn't really bother me. I don't think you'll be able to tell when I wear it unless you're a knitter and look very closely. So it doesn't bother me. But in the end, I met gauge. I decided to knit this in the size A, I believe. Let me check yes, I knitted it in the size A. Okay, so I didn't meet gauge. I'm very sorry. I lied to you. I'm looking at my notes now, and I didn't meet gauge. My gauge was very big. So it says here that I decided to knit the size A instead of a size D. So I was going for the D dimensions because I wanted like quite a lot of positive ease. But I decided to knit the size A because my gauge was so large. So in the end, I'm really happy with the fit. So I think that works out well. So yeah, I knitted it in size A, aiming for the dimensions of the size D with my gauge. Sorry, I lied. So in terms of modifications, I did quite a lot of modifications, and I tried to like mimic what Nora Knits had done. So the collar, instead of a rib, I did an I-cord, which hopefully you can see here. So in the last podcast, I had knitted the I-cord with 3.5 millimeter needles, and it was really tight. And I had also skipped a few stitches. So I think I was knitting in the back section of the collar. I was knitting 6 every 7 stitches, if I'm not mistaken, and that was really tight. So I told you in the last podcast that I had to rip that out, and I did, and I reknitted it, picking up every stitch and using a 4 millimeter needles, and I think that it's much nicer now. It goes over my head nicely, and I like the fit of it, so I'm happy with the collar now. In the sleeves, so I knitted the sleeves up to my elbow a little bit, just a little bit above. And then I did a folded hem. So in the sleeves, what I did was in the last row before it said to start the rib, I placed a lifeline. And then I skipped the rib, I didn't do the rib. And then I knitted in stockinette 6 more rows in the 4.5 millimeter needles. Then a purled row, and then I changed to 3.5 millimeter needle, and then I knitted 6 more rows, and then I cast it off with the inside of the stitches with the lifeline, if that makes sense. And then I removed the lifeline, and I steam blocked the sleeves with some books on top, so they could lay flat, and I think they do now. I think they look very nice. But I still thought that they were slightly flaring a little bit to the outside. So I thought I could improve this essentially. So what I did was For the bottom hem, I did the exact same thing with the lifeline, and I knitted the same amount of rows, but I dropped the needle straight after the lifeline to a 4mm needle, and then after the purl row, I dropped to 3.5mm needle. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, this is the finished tee. I can't wait for the weather to improve a little bit so I can wear it. As I said, in terms of the yarn, I don't love the Metallico. Not that I don't like the gold speckles that can come through. I love those, but I don't like the texture of it. But I love the tencel, and in the end, I'm just really happy with the final results, regardless. So in terms of the time this was on the needles, it was exactly 2 months. I started this on November 29th of 2024, and then I finished this on February 28th, 2025. And then in terms of costs, I used up 5 balls of the tencel and 3 balls of the Metallico. I had like these tiny bits left over, so I'm considering that I used the full amount of what I bought. And the Metallico, I bought the yarn with discount. There was a Hobbii discount at the time when I bought it. So I bought the Metallico for €3.46 each ball, and the tencel for €5.09 each ball. And then I used, the delivery cost was €7.49. So in total, the yarn plus the delivery cost me €41.36, and the pattern cost €9.23. So the total of the project was €50.59, which I think it's pretty okay. I'm really happy with it. So yeah, that's my only finished object to show you. Now, in terms of the works in progress, I have 2 updates from last podcast, and then 1 new work in progress. So the first update, and this is really boring, I'm really sorry, but this is the blanket, the crochet blanket I've been doing since 2017. And here it is. So I forgot to move my progress keeper from the last update. So this project keeper has been here since the beginning of the year, and I've been trying to work on this a little bit every night, even though I haven't really successfully done that. I have skipped some nights, but I'm trying to do at least 1 row a day. And this is where I was in the beginning of the year, and this is where I am now in the beginning of March. I'm going to move the progress keeper so then we can see how much I've crocheted on this in the next episode. So yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. I'm using Stylecraft Special DK, which is 100% acrylic yarn. I've kind of gathered together all the yarn I have. I put it to one side. I took it out of my stash, so I can now visually see how much I have left, and I can tell you it's still a lot. So I still have a lot to do on this blanket, but we'll do it. We'll persevere until it's done. Okay, my next work in progress is my Mondim sweater. I already told you all about this in my last podcast. So the last time I showed you this, I was a little bit about the same in the body, and then I had started 1 sleeve. But what happened was, when I put this on, it was huge. It was really massive. The sleeves were fine. The fit of the sleeves, in the beginning of the sleeves, it was fine. It was essentially the body there was a lot of fabric in the front and in the back. So what I decided to do was to frog everything up to, I split for the sleeves. And then I was trying to come up with a way of reducing the body without having to frog everything, because this is a circular yoke. So if I wanted to reduce the size, I would have to change the size completely of the size I was following, because I'm following a size large. Because the reason why I'm doing a size large is because my gauge was really off. It was really small. So I started doing the size large, but it looks like my calculations were not very good. And then in the end, I ended up with a very huge jumper. I was going to end up with a very huge jumper. So what I did was, there was, for my size, the size I was knitting, there was 19 stitches cast on the underarm when I split for the sleeves. And I thought, okay, I can reduce this by quite a lot and then transfer, let's see if I can explain this. Transfer stitches, instead of casting on that amount of stitches, I could transfer the same amount I reduce from the body to the sleeves so that the sleeves keep the same size they are now, but I reduced the body. I hope that makes sense. So there was 19 stitches. I went down from 90 stitches cast on the other arm to 5 stitches cast on in the other arm. So I reduced 14 stitches. And the reason why I reduced those 14 stitches is because at the bottom of the jumper, you have a colorwork motif being repeated, which is 14 stitches. So I had to reduce a unit of the pattern, if that makes sense. So essentially that's what I did. I reduced the underarm stitches and then I started the sleeves. I moved stitches from the body to the sleeves, so then the sleeves would be the same size and the body would be smaller. And I can tell you that I've tried this. So I then knitted a little bit of the body. So I have this much of the body knitted and I tried it on and it is much, much nicer now. I think it fits really well now. So I was happy that that worked out really well. Then I finished one sleeve. So this is the left sleeve. And then I decided that this little motif on the sleeve, at the bottom of the sleeve, I was going to do it in white. And now I need your help to decide the color of the motif I'm going to do at the bottom of the body, because I put a question on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go and follow me. It's have you met JV? And I put a question and there was 50-50 split between the people that wanted the red motif and the people that wanted the white motif. I actually did the same in my personal account and I had more people voting for the white there. But in my Instagram that I have for this channel, I got the split and I don't know what to do. So people told me, okay, if you put the red in the black background, you're not going to have the same contrast. You're not going to have enough contrast for the red to see. But I would argue that if I put the white, it's going to mirror this white here by a lot, and then it's going to look like a jumper of two halves where you have the red in the white background and then you have the white in the black background, and then at the end of the body you're going to have the same again. Whereas if I put the red in the black background you might not have so much contrast, but do I need all that contrast when I have this contrast of the white in the black and the red in the white? Like, do I need the bottom of the jumper to have so much contrast? So I would like you to tell me what you think. Should I have enough yarn of both? So I would like you to tell me what you think. Should I use the red? Have a look at the pattern pictures, which I put in the video when I said what I was knitting. So have a look at that and let me know what you think. Should I knit with the red or should I knit with the white? I suspect the opinions are going to be split again. And also consider that on the sleeves I'm doing the white. So my idea was to do white on the sleeves and then red in the body. But I still haven't decided. So yeah, this is the Mambon sweater. It's been on the needle since the 1st of January. Today is the 1st of March, so for 2 months now. And I really love it. I'm really happy with it. In terms of the yarn I'm using for the black, I'm using the Mini Alpaca by Sadness Garn in the color black. I don't remember the number of the color, but it'll be in the description below. The white is the Mondim by Rosa Pomar. And then the red is the Filcolana Arwetta, which is slightly thinner than the other two. But I think it works really well anyway. And the idea is to use the leftover I have of the Arwetta to knit my first pair of socks. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is the Mum Bum sweater. I'm really happy with it. Let me know what you think of the colors, and I will continue to work on this. The next project, and the only other whip, is the Eva cardigan by Petite Knits. So here it is. There isn't much to show yet, but this is the back panel with the shoulders. So it goes like this, essentially. And my gauge is off for this as well. So I'm knitting a size, like a few sizes above my actual size, because the pattern says to use a 4mm needle, and I did a swatch and I didn't like the fabric that it gave me with the 4mm needles. So I decided to knit this on 3.4mm needles. And then for the pearl rows, I'm actually using a 3mm needle. So I'm going down by quite a lot. And I'm actually really worried now that even by going up a few sizes, that this is now too small. So I'm running the risk here of making, and then having to frog everything and start over with the 4mm needles. But I'm taking that risk because I really prefer the fabric, which you can actually see through the fabric with the 3mm needles. So you can imagine that with the 4mm needles, you're going to see a lot more through the fabric. And I don't know if this is the yarn that it's much different from the yarn that's recommended, but I don't know. I prefer this fabric to the one that I was getting with a 4mm needle. So I'm now just increasing until I split the sleeves and the body, and I'm having a lot of fun. I've never done this type of shoulder construction. I don't know what's called. You know when people say like saddle shoulders and drop shoulder. I know what a drop shoulder is, but I don't know what a saddle shoulder is. So I don't know all the different terminologies for the different shoulder types. So I don't know what this is, but I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it so far. And yeah, this is the Eva cardigan. The idea is to have a black cardigan because I want to wear this with the Faram tee in spring and even in the winter. I think it'll be okay. And yeah, I haven't had a black cardigan for many years. And actually when I did have a black cardigan, which was shop bought, I wore it a lot. I wore it all the time with many different outfits. So I was in need of a black cardigan. The wool that I'm using is the Tukuwool DK by Tukuwool. This is the Finnish yarn that I bought in Finland. Not all of it I bought in Finland. If you watched my last podcast, you know what happened. I went to Finland, I went to a shop, I bought the yarn, and then I realized that I hadn't bought enough. So I had to order more and pay a lot of delivery because of that. But anyway, I hope I now have all the yarn I need. So this is the Tukuwool. It's very woolly. It's quite scratchy. I'm not going to lie. If you're sensitive to wool and if you're sensitive to scratchy wool, I don't recommend this. I am not very sensitive to wool. I don't mind having some roughness against my skin, but I think this is going to be even borderline for me. I'm not going to lie. So maybe when I wash it one time, it will soften a bit, but it is quite scratchy, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, very woolly wool. It smells of wool. It smells really lovely, and I'm really happy with it. You can tell it's good quality wool. I really like it. So yeah, this has been on the needles for 3 days only, so that's why it's so tiny. But yeah, we'll make progress. So yeah, that in terms of plans, my plan is to knit this and finish the mambo sweater. And I want to finish the mambo sweater because before I start anything else. And then actually I think I'm going to start a self-drafted thing that hopefully I can make a vlog out of it and then release the pattern. It would be my first written pattern. I've never written a pattern. I have self-drafted things before, but I'm not like hugely knowledgeable on pattern making. I am following a few videos I found, which hopefully can help me with that. But the idea would be to release that pattern if I am courageous enough. So yeah, that was my other whip. This episode is going to be very short, I think, but I don't know. We're flying through everything. I don't have much more to say, and this is why I don't make podcast episodes more regularly, because I don't make enough progress to show you every week. So let's talk about acquisitions. So my first acquisition was 2 of these row counters. Now, these are not actually, these were not marketed for knitting. And I think they're marketed for like sports and warehouses and places where you need to like count things. But I actually quite like this. However, I've been using it nonstop since I got it. There was a pack of 2 and I got it off of Amazon, which I don't love. I don't love ordering on Amazon, but as you can see, and you'll see in my other acquisition as well, that sometimes I don't have an option. I can't find the things I want in normal shops here in Portugal or to order online especially. So I have to resort to Amazon, which is a shame. But yeah, I have a few qualms with this. The first one is it's much larger than I thought it would be. I was looking for a row counter and stitch counter that had something that I could pin to my project, but this is too heavy and too big to pin to my project. So even though I did end up finding this ones with this thing that I can, well, I think the idea is to put on your finger, but I could pin it to a project. This is way too heavy to pin on the project. It's way too big. So that's my first qualm with this. I wish it was a little bit smaller, but the small clicky ones I found marketed for knitting didn't have anything like a thing to pin in my project. So in the end, I ended up going with these. The other thing is and I'm going to try to see it. So you click here to change one by one. But if I want to change it, I thought this thing here would be to change it quicker, right? So I could go one by one, but quicker. But as you can see here, they change to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and this is not very useful. This is not very useful. Why does it change like this? So that's a bit annoying. So if I want to go, let's say from 50 to 100, I have to like click 50 times, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, that's the only problem with this. I've been using this a lot, and I think I'll keep using them, and I keep them in my project bag with the project, and I use it all the time. I don't like to count stitches. I count 2 by 2, so it's easier. Like I count 2 by 2 and then I multiply by 2. But rows, you know, if I'm following a pattern and if I have to do like 12 rows of something, let's say, I don't like to place markers and then count. Some people like to do that, but for me, it's much easier to just click. And I used to have this app on my Android phone that was very good. There was like a row counter, but I haven't found that same app for Apple. So since I moved to an iPhone, so I think these things work really well. And before I had a plasticky one that you could put in your needle, or like I would actually put a safety pin through it and then pin it to my project to like the beginning of the row. But it was like a plasticky, very bad quality, and it would move. So if I changed from 1 to 2 to 3, and then when I came back to I placed it in the bag, and then when I came back to the project, you would have moved. by itself. So that wasn't very helpful. And this is why I bought these ones, the clicky ones. So yeah, in the end, there's some problems with these, but I'm really happy with them. The other Amazon purchased was another try-on tubing. And again, so the last try-on tubing I bought was a 3 millimeter diameter, which was too big for smaller projects. It was very difficult to pass on stitches on the part of the cable, and it just was really annoying because the stitches kept getting caught. So for example, the Mumble sweater, which is fingering weight yarn, I just couldn't use the try-on tubing I had before. So I decided to buy the same one, but with 2 millimeter, so I decided to buy the same one, but with 2 millimeter diameter. And you can see here, let me get the other one to show you the difference. So this is the 3 millimeter one, and then this is the 2 millimeter one. And you can see there's a huge difference between the two. So this one is much thinner, and I hope I'll be able to wear it in more projects than the other one. And I'll save the other one for bigger gauge projects. So yeah, I bought that off of Amazon. Again, it wasn't marketed for knitters. It was marketed for like cord to make jewelry or something like that. Yeah, in the end, I think it's going to serve the purpose. Okay, my final acquisition, it's going to make a lot of noise, sorry. It's in a brown paper bag. But my last acquisition was some linen yarn. So this is, oh, it's falling apart. My ball of yarn is falling apart. Okay, this is Katia Lino, and I bought 5 balls in white and 5 balls, so color 1, and then 5 balls in black, color 21. Now, so I ordered this online from Retrosaria, Rosa, Pomar. I should have gone in and feel it. First of all, it says it's a fingering weight yarn, but this is very thin. It's almost like a lace. Maybe not like a lace, but definitely light fingering it is. And I want to make, so that project I was telling you about, a self-drafted top that I intend to put the pattern out, that's what this is going to be. And it's going to be a color work project with black and white. So I bought 5 balls of the white and 5 balls of the black, and hope that's going to be enough to do that. I still don't know which needles I'm going to use. I have to do a little bit of trying and a little bit of swatching with the color work pattern I want to use, and then see. But I'm not going to talk much about this in upcoming podcasts, because even if this is a work in progress, I want this to be a surprise for the vlog I will eventually make, and that's probably going to be a few months down the line. So I'm not going to talk about this on camera until I release that vlog, if it ever comes out, if it's successful. If it's not successful, if I can't make anything out of this, and if it doesn't turn out the way I want to be, you're never going to see the result of this. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's the plan. The plan is to make a self-drafted top, design my own pattern, learn how to grade a pattern, learn how to tech edit, potentially find a tech editor, I don't know, and then release the pattern and release a vlog where I show you what I've made and how I've made it and why I've made it. So yeah, that's the plan. Right, so that was the podcast. I don't have anything else to show you. I hope you enjoyed this. I wanted to give a word to everyone who joined since my last video, which was the 30 color work patterns roundup. And I had a lot of positive feedback. I had quite a lot of comments in that video, and I mean, let me explain. I was having about between 40 and 100 views on every video, and I had about 40 subscribers before that video. And then suddenly that video did really well, and I now have about 6,000 views on that video, and I have 250 subscribers, a little bit more than that. And it still seems very small, right? If we're talking about YouTube, 6,000 views on a video or 250 subscribers, that's very small. But for me, that's huge. So if I think about being in a room, even with 40 people, you know, which was the type of views I was getting before, in a room of people with 40, in a room of 40 people talking about my knitting, that's really huge. That's really massive. So then to have 6,000 views in a video, that was, yeah, really surreal. So I wanted to thank everyone who joined, and thank everyone who watched this video now, and who's still here, who subscribed, and especially people who commented, because I really enjoyed receiving those comments, and it was really a joy. It was really a joy. Like, it was a proper dopamine hit to receive those comments and to go and comment back and have a little chat with people. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode as well. I have a few more ideas for videos, so there's going to be a bit of variety in the channel, not just podcast episodes. In terms of how often I release, it really depends on my professional life and my personal life. I have a full-time job, so it really sometimes it depends on when I have time to record. Some of these other videos that I have in mind require a little bit more preparation, so we need to count that as well, that it's gonna take a little bit of time for me to make them happen. But yeah, thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, but you actually enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, consider giving me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment to tell me what color I should use in the mumble sweater. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day. Bye bye.